This project is supported in part by a grant from the Alaska Humanities Forum and the National Endowment for the Humanities, a federal agency. Any views, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this episode or revision do not necessarily represent those of the National Endowment for the Humanities.
And viewers like you, Karasakung, thank you.
One of the things that I always kind of miss when I'm not here is the smell of the ocean. Sometimes when you have a storm, you can smell the salt in the air.
I was born and raised here on St. Paul. It's beautiful. The air is beautiful and everything. It was really something that I grew up to. The birds, you used to wake up in the morning, you'd get up on the porch and smell a nice breeze and hear the birds. And you could hear all the seals hollering. That was serenity right there, I tell you.
In 1942, Japanese fighter planes bombed Unalaska and the U.S. naval base at Dutch Harbor. Over the next few days, Japanese forces invaded the islands of Kiska and Attu, taking the villagers from Attu prisoner of war. The decision to evacuate Unangan villages was made suddenly by the U.S. military with no real planning. Una, or Aleuts, from the Aleutian and Pribilof Islands were forcibly removed and relocated 1,739 miles away from their homes to southeast Alaska, an environment drastically different from their windswept, treeless islands. We didn't know where we were going when we left the island. Flor Lakanoff.
They took us down from our beautiful island without informing us of the reasons why we were being taken off the island and transported to a desolate place.
They were held in derelict buildings with little food and unsanitary conditions that led to a higher death rate than any American POW camp.
We want everybody to know what happened to our people and for other people and the government to understand that it shouldn't happen in America. It's unfortunate it happened to us Aleuts.
I think it's high time that Native American Alaska Native history is known, taught, and everybody needs to know.
And the thing that I'm most excited about is now is that everyone can talk now. Everyone has permission to talk. That's all it is about. Healing is being heard.
I am Nico Sanguinetti. I am the Curator of Collections and Exhibits at the Juneau Douglas City Museum in Juneau, Alaska. So when I started this role at the City Museum, I didn't know anything about the internment camps at Funter Bay. What I found is that there As with any historical event, there's always going to be some people who knew about it. But overall, most people that I knew in Juneau had never heard about the 2 internment camps at Funter Bay during World War II. Our purview is the Juneau Douglas Gold Belt, but we realized it was such an important story, and even though it was technically outside of our bounds, we thought it was a worthwhile story and important that we share. So when it came time to start planning an exhibit, we knew that we were going to be needing outside help. We were going to be needing consultation. And the way that we sort of started that was just trying to invite as many people to the table who we felt had a voice in this story.
The elders back in the day who experienced this that were in Funter Bay, a majority of them you'll see don't talk about it. It was too painful. And so I think that through this, you all have become a voice for them. And those who have passed away in Funter Bay and were buried there, everyone deserves the respect and the right to a proper resting place.
And so it's up to us to remember what happened and make sure that those lessons get passed on to the future generations so that they can use this history to protect themselves also.
That's when we started to hear from different people that it was more than an exhibit that was necessary, that we needed to protect the cemetery and we needed to have information on site so that people who were visiting Funter Bay knew what had happened there. So we started with this small kernel of a small exhibit, grew into a large exhibit, grew into multiple parts of this larger group.
The goals of the group were to design an exhibit at Juneau Douglas City Museum, protect the land where the cemetery lies at Funter Bay, and design interpretive panels.
So they wanted to protect the cemetery that exists at Funter Bay, where those who were interned during World War II were buried when they passed away. And 10% of the residents of Funter Bay passed away while they were there, and they still remain there. It was really important to make sure that descendants would have access, they would be able to care for their ancestors in perpetuity. We looked at a legislative bill to move the land that the Funter Bay Cemetery is on from general DNR land to be part of the existing state marine park that was already in existence.
In 2021, our bill to protect the cemetery, HB 10, was sponsored by Representative Sarah Hannon. But to become a law, the bill still had a tough journey ahead.
This conference is in lecture mode. This conference may be recorded. Joining conference.
Okay, at this time we're going to move on to public testimony. I'm going to open it this time for HB 10, Funter Bay Marine Park. We have Martin Stepton. We're eager to hear what you have to say.
I'm originally from St. Paul Island, Alaska. I live here in Juneau now. Funter Bay is where my grandparents were. Haratina Krukov, Olga Zaharov, Alexei Steptin, and Agafon Krukov. Those are my 4 grandparents that were there in 1942. My dad was born down here at that time and was actually born in the St. Anne's Hospital. Somehow my grandparents made it over here to Juneau, and my dad was one of the lucky ones who were born down here and actually survived. If you look at the cemetery headstones, a lot of young babies who were born at that time didn't make it. The legislature, what I like to say is that the state of Alaska didn't cause this to the Aleuts, but since now this cemetery sits on state land, it is 100% up to the Alaska State Legislature and the state to protect it now. Thank you for hearing me today, and thank you for supporting HB 10.
Thank you, Mr. Stepton. We're grateful that your father survived, because if not, you wouldn't be here today to share this information with us. The next testifier is Richard Zaharov. Richard, please please state your name and affiliation for the record, and you have 3 minutes for your testimony.
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Richard Zaharoff. I live on St. Paul Island, Alaska. I took a trip to Funter Bay in 2000.
When I first got to Funter Bay, I was amazed and disamazed by the surrounding, the atmosphere, the gloominess, and the sense of lost souls there.
And roughly 10% of our population passed away there that were evacuated from St. Paul Island in 1942.
My uncle's name is Dmitry Ostikov Jr. He passed away. He was like 5 years old when he passed away down there. My grandmother, my mom was like 4 years old when she was down there. She made it back home. And other family members made it back home. But generally, it was women that were down at Funter Bay. The men were here on the island, you know, working on the fur seals as wards of the government.
Our last testifier I'm showing up online is Jacob Merkulov, or I may have mispronounced your last name. Jacob, please state your name for the record and provide your testimony. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Jacob Merkulov, and I'm from St. Paul Island, originally born on St. George Island, Alaska. My grandparents are Lawrence Prokopiev Sr. and Natalia on my mom's side, and on my dad's side, John Merkulov Sr. They were both interred in Funter Bay, so I am speaking on their behalf. In 1942, when they evacuated the islands, this is where the St. Paul villagers were taken out of. There was a team out here playing a hardball game. They came in and stopped the game and told the people that you're going to have to leave the island and go home and pack your bags.
We were allowed to take 1 bag apiece and clothing on our backs, and that was the way we were to get on the ships. Flora Lakanoff.
That's how they ended up leaving the island. I think that would be hard if somebody came to your island and told you, you know, pack your bags, you got to leave. Hopefully, you know, it will never be forgotten.
How are you doing? Good, you? Good, Awesome.
The interpretive panels were part of the larger working groups initiatives, early initiatives, to make sure that anyone who goes to Funter Bay is able to learn about what happened there. It's not written by some outside perspective. It's not through a historical lens. These are the words of people from St. Paul and St. George, which was incredibly important to our group.
Delarov. That's Alice, Francie, Lustacer, Uriah Hansen, Johnny boy, right here. Yeah, I could say some of them healed, some, but some hurt and they cry yet, you know, because they lost some of their family out there. It makes you cry when you think about it. Didn't think our parents went through all this, you know. Yeah. Yeah, and still healing is right. A long ways to go yet.
So the interpretive panels will be installed on site at Funter Bay, and they will be near the cemetery, so anyone who is in that area knows what happened to the people who were interned there and what their connection is to other places.
Catering, cooking guy by day. Funter Bay protecting guy at night. Yeah, so I'm a driver, catering and a courier driver. That's what I do. I could go back to driving construction, driving CDL, driving truck, you know, and get paid a lot more. But I wouldn't have my freedom to do all these things that I like to do, like this bill hearing today, testifying on HB 10. You know, being present in politics is the most important thing. If you're not there, then your voice can't be heard. And that's it.
Today, the Alaska State Senate will vote on House Bill 10, the final hurdle before reaching the governor's desk.
There it is, Senate floor session. I'm ready for anything, you know, and we didn't come this far, you know, for nothing. So we've fought hard for this bill, and we're gonna get it one way or the other. I feel good about it. Yeah. But it's in their hands now. I can't control this process. I can't testify to them. You know, that's the thing. It's up to them now. Everything that you do for a bill happens before this, and once it gets here, it's up to them to decide. And if you've done a good job up until this point, your bill's looking good. But if you haven't done a good job, normally your bill wouldn't even get to this point, and it would die in some committee. But it's here in the Senate floor now, ready to be heard.
Will the Senate please come to order? Senator Keel.
Thank you, and good morning, Mr. President. During World War II, 480 Monongan people were forced to leave their homes on the Pribilof Islands of St. Paul and St. George after Japanese forces occupied parts of the Aleutian Chain. The United States federal government interred these Americans in frankly appalling conditions at an abandoned cemetery in Funter Bay, an abandoned cannery at Funter Bay, just about 18 miles from where we sit or stand right now. Mr. President, the Alaska State Legislature can't fix the history. We can't change what was done. But we can protect the final resting place of more than 30 of our fellow Americans at Funter Bay. I ask the members to support House Bill 10.
Thank you, Senator Keel. That brings us to the question. Shall HB 10 pass the Senate? Senators may proceed to vote.
Congratulations, they said.
Does any senator fail to vote? Secretary will lock the roll. Do any senators wish to
All
change their
green.
vote?
Everybody voted in favor of it.
Secretary will record
The bill
and tally the
passed.
vote.
19 yeas, 0 nays.
And so on a vote of 19 yeas and 0 nays, HB 10 has passed the Senate. Madam Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move and ask unanimous.
Oh my God. That's amazing. Yeah, it is a big achievement. We've never made it this far. We've been trying for a number of years now. It's a huge feat. It's takes a lot of work and dedication, and I hope people recognize that, because this was not easy to do, and it took a lot of people's work, not just me. You know, a huge group of us are working on this. I think our group is over 40 now, you know, and so this bill is on its way to the governor's desk, and we hope the governor signs the bill.
Unangan from the Pribilofs were allowed to return home in May of 1944. They found most of their houses looted, vandalized, or destroyed by U.S. soldiers. They would spend years rebuilding their communities and their lives. First thing we had after we got back, my dad went out and came back with seal meat. And it was good because it was home for all of us. Vlash Shabalin.
People on St. Paul call me Kuka. Kuka in Aleut means grandma. Yeah, I'm everybody's Kuka, even the school teachers.
More dough?
No, harvest bread. We call these alodics. In English, they're fry bread. This is oven roast seal meat. Holostocking, this year's harvest. Both my parents my mom was a teenager, they were young. I used to hear my mom and her friend talk together in Aleut. They sounded angry and mad. We didn't know what, they were talking about. They didn't tell us much about it. They didn't talk much about it, but they spoke between themselves in Aleut, how it was down there. They sounded angry and mad. I wanted to see, what they went through, why they were angry and stuff. Then later on, after all this was coming out, and I went to Frontenac Bay to see for myself, it was just sad, especially walking in the woods, so dark. Then to the graveyard. I said, oh my Lord, how'd they get in there? That big hill. I said, we gotta let the people know. Show the people, these younger kids, what our people went through in the olden days, how hard it was for them.
Today, House Bill 10 will be signed into law.
I guess I'm just super overly excited, and I can't, doesn't feel real, I guess, part of it. I still feel like I have to be in defense mode where I'm just stuck on selling this, but I don't have to anymore. And that's a weird feeling where, you're like, once you're used to fighting for this, but you don't have to fight anymore. So I guess that's the weird feeling is you won. It's over, you won, and you got it.
I want to acknowledge Martin Stepton, who's here also, and he'll be speaking in just a few moments. And he's advocated along with others tirelessly for this bill and for this recognition. And this bill will always ensure that the families can visit their elders who are interred there, and always remembering. So, again, if you have some time this afternoon, there's an opportunity to explore the exhibit that is currently on display in the museum here.
And thank you all very much for being here today. Thank you, Governor, for signing this bill and supporting this. Now we know that these people here can rest, and they won't be bothered. There will be no logging roads going through there. There will be no fish camps set up next to the cemetery there. We know it's protected. So thank you very much, and long live HB 10.
So with that, the bill is now law.
Funter Bay was just one of 6 internment sites in southeast Alaska. In total, there were 881 Unanga taken from 9 different villages across Unangam Tananging, the Aleutian chain. They were taken as far away as 1,500 miles from their homelands. 32 Unanga died at Funter Bay Camp, 17 at Killisnoo, 20 at Ward Lake, 5 at Burnett Inlet. Following this evacuation, the villages of Biorka, Kashiga, and Makushan were never resettled. The passing of House Bill 10 was a huge win for the Uinta community, but the efforts to protect other sacred sites continues.
This isn't something that's talked about. This isn't taught in history classes. And so knowing that we're all doing this work so that we can get this important part of history out there and this knowledge shared really has been beneficial.
I joined the Funter Bay group because my husband was working on the group or in the group, and it's been quite the journey since that, to quite the healing journey for both of us to learn about our different our histories growing up on the opposite sides of Alaska. However, being so closely connected through the Aleut evacuations, being in Funter Bay, but also on Killisnoo Island, which is on Admiralty Island. And just want to say I love you all.
This program was made possible in part by the Alaska Humanities Forum and viewers like you. Karasakung. Thank you.